Welcome to the Edinburgh Fringe. Once in a while, Sophocles comes calling. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from Edinburgh. The stages are very nearly built, the bars are very nearly loaded, the traffic cones are always on the statues' heads. Although I suspect this year that might be happening just a little bit more than previous years. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Ewan, Spence here, and the Edinburgh Fringe show. You podcast, your radio, we pop up on my YouTube channel. However you found us, thanks very much for coming along. It's our final preview show in that little quiet period just before the Fringe really starts. After this gets published, I will be packing my reporter's notebook, my Iron Brew shoes, and some sensible walking shoes to head out to the press launches for the media, where all the venues will get out, say they're having a wonderful time. They'll say that the Fringe is under a bit of pressure for money and we need help from central government. And then they will bring in the best of their acts and ask them to do a 3-minute turn, almost like an audition in front of the press. And if you think I might spot some shows to see and people to speak to and get them onto the podcast for the next 3 weeks worth of shows, you would be right. So come along next week when we shift the podcast from weekly into daily mode, and you'll find out who I found out as we go along. But for now, our final preview. How can the classics reflect modern life? That's one of the small thoughts that lies behind Antigone 1989, a town hall musical. It's the classic story, but brought to life for relevance in 2026 by looking back itself to 1989. Set in the Californian village of Thebes, at the heights of the AIDS activism and gay rights upheaval, it explores politics, morals, and the cost of staying silent. Elizabeth McCoy and Cerniglia join me now to talk about returning to one of the first ever stories and using it as a way to highlight the world around us. Their approach to writing a musical, and the quiet anticipation of herding their young cast around the capital while challenging the mood coming from the capital. A great magician was once asked how many tricks does he know, and the answer was, I perhaps know 5. The point there, of course, is that it's not knowing how the trick is done, it's how you present it. An interesting question that arises from the show that Elizabeth McCoy and Ken Gerniglia are here to talk about, which is, how many stories are there in the world?
That's good. I think there's 10.
Why 10?
I think they're relationship-based, conflict-based, family-based. Mothers and sons, fathers and daughters, siblings, people against society, people against themselves. I think those are the stories. They're sort of central conflict based, and they're universal and they're human. And I think they all have variations, which is why it's sort of hard to number them. But I think it boils down to about that.
And with a slightly, where have you coming from this one, Ewan, it leads me back to talking about your show that you bring to the Fringe, which is Antigone 1989, an old classic, well-told story, but now with its own variation. Tell us about it.
You start, Elizabeth, because this is your heart pouring out into the world.
So, our story is a modern retelling set in 1989. And, I got to December of last year and everything ached. I ache as a mother of 5. I ache as a theater maker. I ache as an American. And I'm like, we need to go back to those Greek stories to get some hope about democracy, some hope about how much we personally need to give up in order to make change. And that was really the heart and reason why I came up with this idea to take Antigone, set it in 1989, and hopefully activate audiences to feel and look back in Greek times, but look back at 1989 and then, of course, in right now, and say there's never been a better time to remember why this is so important and why the stakes are so high for us.
Why then focus on the Fringe if it's so much about what you feel about America?
Because the Fringe is one of the few places that I can see where the democratization of having theater and access to theater without having to raise, $20 million and put it on Broadway is still there. I think I've never been to the Fringe. I've just, fantasized about going to the Fringe as a theater maker to say, what would it feel like to be in an area where people come just to discover and feel and get this diversity of styles of art, but also kind of find where they're resonating. Disneyland for artists, it feels like. So I've been really excited and pumped about this idea forever. And, I've produced for so many years, running a theater company, and we're limited. We're limited by the audience, and it feels limitless in Edinburgh and international. And I needed that infusion right now in my life.
I love festival theater and was inspired by it as a theater student about the age of our cast, coming from Ewan University. I went to college at UC San Diego, and we had outdoor, because the weather's nice, so we had outdoor theater festivals, and I was learning the craft and just like making work, putting it up, getting like on no money, whatsoever. And that's where I learned the most. When I was in graduate school at Catholic University in DC, we took a play up to Toronto and did a theater festival there of, these medieval plays, right? Sort of like cycle plays. And we took one of 48 plays up there and did it out there in Toronto, which used to be called York's, or the York cycle of plays. And I just freaking loved it. There are people from all over the world, from all over, Canada. There were some troops from Australia, from England, all descended on Toronto. And we did it outdoors in this sort of like festival on wagons. It was like the most amazing thing. And just to like be there in festival and audiences coming, and it's about, just doing theater in community. And I've been to the Fringe a couple of times, and I just absolutely loved it. And just the access, the joy of live performance and all of these different mediums, musical theater, plays, stand-up, like tributes, concerts, everything is just, it's such a delight. And yes, we're setting this show in sort of an America, Thebes, California in 1989, which is when I graduated high school. So I have a very particular point of view on it when Elizabeth invited me to write the book for this. But that time of that sort of like a precipice of looking back, taking this old story that was born, this Western drama and democracy born in the same place, that have like this inextricable relationship to one another that I've been interested in since I've been studying and doing theater, and particularly in this sort of crisis of democracy time. And other people are also reinvestigating Antigone now, which I find delightful. So there's a real conversation there. But I think it may have a particular setting, but it's also a mythic setting, and it's a story of global importance. So why take this thing? Yes, we're Americans dealing with our particular way, but like, look, we're an interconnected world. And this is a story that's Greek, right? And yet it's still relating to all of us as we struggle with our time. So, we're doing it constantly every day, trying to struggle in our world, as all people do. But I do feel like the power of theater to go back in time, and for us to go back to a particular point in time with some references to the 80s, where some things that we're dealing with now started. But then also go back in time 2,500 years and using the Sophocles play as our basis. Like, it's relevant. Why not take it to the Fringe? Why not have everyone interact with it? And it's a brand new show, that's an old show and a brand new show. And we're taking it to a festival and be like, here, guys, what do you think of it? And we're going to learn about it while we're in Edinburgh.
1989 is a very particular setting. What was it like in America? Can you sort of like give a picture of the politics and the tension around the issues? We are, of course, right talking here about the gay rights and AIDS activism and such like here.
It's very close, right? Reaganism and Thatcherism were like very interlinked and on purpose, and the sort of neoconservative movement at a time where there's this, huge epidemic that was killing people and still does. And that was by both the Reagan administration and Thatcher were ignored for a very long time and just eclipsed. It's a fringe thing. I don't have to worry about it. And also we're very uncomfortable with the people who are getting sick, and then we're going to ignore them. And it just seemed, Elizabeth had this idea of like, well, what if this were also, some of the groundwork for telling an Antigone story? And it's a great idea. So, with what she started with, I took it and pulled it very specifically into what I knew growing up in California at the time. And, folks in the UK might not know, but California, even though it's very liberal now, at that time was very conservative. The president of the United States for 8 years what had been the governor of California. The whole state was red, right? It was completely conservative. Every county voted for him twice, and so I think to remind people that things do swing, and to remind people like, oh, it wasn't always this way, and people were ignored to horrible ends. And so just like reviving that a little bit, and at least for America, knowing that, and I think in the UK too, like that sort of neoconservative impulse really, so many seeds were planted in the 80s. And so for, our kids who are like Gen Z, they don't know, right? So we have to tell these stories again, and to be like, oh no, these history repeats itself. The place we're living in now, we've been here before, and we will be here again. So like, let's pay attention and go back a little bit in time and space, so we can maybe like think a little bit differently about the time that we're in. That's what theater has always done well. And even in Greek times, right? Like they were telling stories like set in Greece, but like hundreds of years before. Right? It wasn't like all the same olden times, right? Olden times are layered. So that's what we've been engaging with our cast about, and hopefully our audiences too, is to have a story with a multi-generational connection and appeal. I think what the thing that we recognize a lot is that like generations can divide and just not talk to each other. And what we're trying to do in our show is to encourage those conversations, that curiosity about recent history, about distant history, and about our time now, so we can all stay in it, right? Young people have been like, old people have written us off. I'm like, not all of us, right? Like we care. We actually do care about the future, and we care about the past. And let's see how theater, which was integral to the democracy of ancient Athens, that people went to the theater to learn how to have a society, that everybody went, right? Like that was what you did. And we're going to talk about that a bit in Antigone 1989, to be like, no, we have to come together. And that's why, our subtitle is a town hall musical. We're integrating this idea of like, the temple is ignored. We're going to revive the temple with a town hall, to be like, well, we're desecrating our capital, so we're going to bring democracy into our temple and let that be a space where we can actually talk and tell the truth. So that's the premise of what we're talking about now. So it's mythic. Yes, we have references to the 80s in that, but in a mythical way, right? They're really kind of buried. So we're talking about the 80s around the show, but when we get into the show, we're in Thebes, California. It's a mythical space, and we're going to deal with the sort of references to that time. And it's been really fun to investigate that with our very young cast. We're like, what is this place? What happened?
Elizabeth, what was it like when that sort of moment where you clicked that you could bring the story through Antigone and through modern times? That moment of realization was that a sort of, right, I know exactly where I'm going now?
So I first started, of course, with Oedipus, and but I was doing this brainstorm, right? I was in that like feverish dream moment where you're like, I have to use the Greek stories. I have to do something that makes a difference. And then I realized it has to have a woman. This has to be told through the, really specific heart of a woman. And so the Antigone story then became like, oh, of course. How could I ever? Of course, democracy, but it's also very specifically a woman's story. So, I mean, it's everybody's story, but it's told through her. So I think that was a really exciting, because I really got that, oh my gosh, if we've ever needed a female character, it's right now. And that got me very excited.
And, I looked down your list of directorial shows, and
Yep.
they're not all particularly fringe focused. There's Willy Wonka in there. There's The Sound of Music. There's A Christmas Story, which American listeners will go, yay! And British ones will go, who? So
Yes.
what does it feel like? You've already kind of hinted it before, but to go from those big, powerful names back to small, scrappy fringe theatre.
Yeah. It's freedom. So I was an artistic director. I'm still very involved in a theater company that does, family-focused intergenerational musicals with not very big budgets in Broadway style, but when you have to make your nonprofit budgets every month, you've got to be very, very careful about what you choose. And we survived COVID, Berkeley Playhouse, so we're very happy about that. But, one of the things I worked with Ken for years at the Playhouse, new works and taking risks is the heart of what makes us feel really valued and excited as artists. And unfortunately, the producing costs of doing new works and works that won't sell to everybody becomes something that kind of, chokes you. So the Fringe, again, is this liberation. It seemed to me from everyone I spoke to and like, oh my God, of course, bring finally a new idea without all the trappings, because you get to strip it down, right? We're in a black box. I don't have to worry about all these other, complexities and financial constraints. You can just focus on the thing to tell a story with extraordinary performers, and it was very on purpose to take these Elan musical theater students who will blow your minds. They're so talented, and they're young enough that they don't have any of the cynicism, and they're like, Edinburgh, we can do a new work, and that's the other part of this. We're seeing the possibility of theater through their eyes, which for Ken and I has just been really exciting.
Where's the risk in this show then?
Where isn't the risk in this show? So, my nonprofit is financing the project. I don't know if there'll be a future for the show. I hope there is a future of the show, but we have the thing that Ken and I keep talking about with Chris, our composer, is this is such a limited time frame. So some of that risk in a new work is usually shared by having multiple performances and stages and workshops. This is so fast. We've got to make changes like that. So the risk is we're not putting this up in front of audiences and saying, how does this land? What are we thinking? We've just got to charge ahead. So from the financial risk and the artistic risk of this is, we've got to do our very best and not double think it. We've just got to go forward and bring these really smart collaborators together and do our very best. So the risk is you don't have time, you don't have money. I don't have a big theater organization giving me feedback. We're just blazing ahead.
Yeah, and that question of risk is, I'm thinking bigger, right? Like, of course, there's risk in producing theater if you think commercially, right? Like most shows lose money, but that's not the way we do this. Some things in success can find a way to like pay everybody back and make money. But I'm thinking more of like the risk in just putting art out there, particularly art that's going to say something, and political risk, which is the subject of the play. And, we're saying things in this play that speak to our world too, right? And issues of free speech and issues of coercion and issues of being put down and being silenced, right? These are all super relevant to what was happening in the 1980s and happens throughout the world all the time. When you speak out, when you see something that's not right, that the risks are enormously high. The risks are death, right? Like there's no higher risk. So that's part of the Antigone story and has been forever. We're expanding it out into like thinking about some other things in this particular point in time, but it's still what Sophocles was trying to say with that. And we're just putting it in a kind of new frame. We're adding some music to it, which is interesting, you know. And, you know, Chris's songs are very catchy, very hooky. And so we're saying like, what's that? We don't know, right? Like the Fringe audiences will be our first audiences. But you know, we have our team and listening to it and the drafts that we've had so far and responding to it. And, you know, Elizabeth and I lived through the 80s, so we have a particular relationship to that. But Chris didn't. He's younger than us. And then our cast is even younger than that. So so we're trying to feel like, okay, what are the universals in here that we're doing it with? And then we're like, we're going to do this and we're going to, you know, put our best thing forward. We're, you know, very close to locking it in. We go into rehearsals on Monday. We've already workshopped it, but we're going back in with a new version. And then we're going to show up in Scotland. Like, here we go. Like, I don't, you know, we'll see. We'll see how the audiences respond. I think it's good theater. It's a good story. I mean, that there's a little less risk in that, like, this isn't a brand new play. This is an adaptation. Some people have heard about this thing called Antigone. So they might come in with some expectations. And we're also going to realize that some of our audiences will be experiencing this story for the first time. And that's always something that I've done in my career is widen the welcome. I've worked on a lot of adaptations over time, but I'm always concerned about the person who comes for the first time. Where are they coming from and do they feel welcome? And how can I expand our storytelling to welcome them into the theater and be along for the ride with us? You don't have to know anything, you know, to come in. Just show up and we'll take care of you.
What about then for your cast? Their first time in Edinburgh as well. There's Elizabeth, if you're as excited now, how's the rest of the cast and crew looking forward to this?
They're so excited. I mean, there are so many unknowns with this. It's a festival. Many of them have never been to another country. So you've got a lot of, you know, exciting thresholds. And I think what's really, you know, what's beautiful is that they get to focus on doing this story and doing this play. They're, you know, we're working with Rhymes with Purple, Frodo, and Frodo's like, we're going to have you guys sing and do pop-ups. And the kids are like, what? We get to do that? They're so excited about that access. They're so excited about being a part of, you know, we saw a show this week and someone there a friend is going for Bliss this in Edinburgh. I'm like, oh my God. And then they were texting each other. So I think the idea that it feels so open and fun is just, you know, extremely different for these young people.
So the show itself, running for the full Fringe, where can people come and see it?
We're at the Gilded Balloon, and it is at 3:05 every day.
And it is a musical. And I know when I come out with musicals at the Fringe, I go, I want to sing the song again that's stuck in my head. So is the music available anywhere?
Not yet pre-recorded. We have one song up, but that is a hope in the future because this music, you're going to want to listen to it again. Your whole body is going to feel connected to the music. It's wildly entertaining and emotional and all the things that good music is.
And if people want to find out more about the show, the story, either your one or the original, where can they go?
We have a website, Antigone 1989, I think /official for the Instagram. But we have a website with tons of information and you can find out about the cast and it's awfully purdy, the website.
They're very active. They're very excited. They're sharing a lot, and we love our cast so much. I think, like, you know, like I don't know if people are going to care about like us, but they're going to care about our cast because they're really talented and they're so enthusiastic. And like, no, really, their talent is extraordinary. So it's an honor to write stuff for them to perform.
And it's an experience they will take away for the rest of their careers. Ken,
yeah,
you know what's coming up. Elizabeth, you've heard stories, but
get ready.
Exactly. All I know is I'm going to be doing a lot of flyering.
Yes.
And there might just be a little bit of rain. Yeah, just a little. Yeah.
Yep. Tis true.
Ken, Elizabeth, thanks very much for coming on the show, for talking more about this. As always, links into the box office and all the URLs and websites mentioned are going to be back at our website, edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. And again, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks.
Elizabeth McCoy and Cerniglia there from Antigone 1989, a town hall musical. Plays at 3:05 from the 5th through to the 29th of August at the Gilded Balloons Paterhouse, which is the one on Chambers Street's Adam House if you live in Edinburgh or you know the city for the other 11 months of the year, where it does not become the arts capital of the world. One other bit of bookkeeping here. The magician was David Devon, and the quote is found in the opening preface to The Royal Road to Card Magic. There you are. Citation is no longer needed. As always, if you could link, like, love, share, and subscribe, all the things that social media content asks you to do on social media, I've just done that as well. If you're listening to us in a podcast app, then you can leave us a star rating if possible. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do the thumbs up, and I'm sure there are other ways of showing your love as well. And that, as they say, is that. For my previews, I'm going to watch the Fringe previews, and when we're back next Monday, it's going to be the show proper. Ta-ra for now. You've been listening to the Edinburgh Fringe Show, hosted by Ewan Spence. Produced by Spence Media for the Podcast Corner. Listen to more from The Fringe at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com.